people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Following her decision loss to Caroline Dubois this past weekend, former champion Terry Harper took to her social media and stated, what a crazy week. Not the result we wanted, but we had a week full of fun, laughter, stepping outside of our comfort zones, quizzes, a push, a couple of elbows, and an amazing night of boxing put together by MVP. I've come away from last week with so much growth and great memories. Congratulations to all the fighters who entered the ring Sunday night to put on a great display of women's boxing. Thank you to MVP, Jake Paul, Nikisa Badarian, Sky Sports for making it possible for us. A little bit of rest and downtime, then back to it. You can't get rid of me that easily. Ahead of the fight, I anticipated that Terry Harper would lose to Caroline Dubois, which she did, and the severity of the loss would be important. That if it was a blowout, if it was a violent knockout, Terry might pack it in, she might pack it up and call it a career. In spite of how the judges scored it, and what Caroline Dubois supporters might say, that fight turned out to be a lot more competitive than I initially thought. I gave Terry Harper at least 4 out of the 10 rounds. At no point in the fight did she look out of sorts or out of her depth. She lost, but it was a competitive loss, and that shows that Terry Harper has more to give. Though perhaps not at 135 pounds, it's safe to say that she has been ejected from that world title picture, so what does she do now? Where does she go? We'll remember that Katie Taylor, who still holds 3 of the 4 major titles in the 140-pound division, has but 1 fight left before she walks away from boxing, before she calls it a career. After she does, Terry Harper can come back at 140 and fight for one of the belts that Katie leaves behind. Doesn't Sandy Ryan hold the belt up there? Sandy Ryan does. Sandy does hold the WBO title, and Sandy already pummeled Terry Harper, already beat her into submission. I don't see anybody calling for a rematch, and I don't expect one to happen even if Terry does go to 140 and wins a belt there. It's not just at 140 pounds that the world titles may become available in the not-so-distant future. At 147, where Lauren Price currently holds 3 of the 4 major titles. I think she's done at 147, having poured cold water over the Michaela Mayer undisputed welterweight title fight. I think she's done. I think the next time we see her, it'll be at a new weight. I believe that Lauren Price will be moving up, and when she does, she will discard the 3 titles that she currently holds, making them available for either Terry Harper or Sandy Ryan to fight for them. It's another possibility, another division where Terry Harper can go. Based on what I saw this past weekend, she's not done. She looked switched on. She looked sharp. And just imagine if going into the fight she weren't coming off an 11-month layoff, 1 month short of a year. Her last fight before the Dubois fight was the Natalie Zimmerman fight, all the way back there in May of last year. She was out for a while. She ended up getting picked up by MVP in the summer of last year, though oddly enough, they didn't get her a fight in the interim. She didn't make her MVP debut until this past weekend, so just imagine if she would have had another fight, a little stay-busy fight, in between the Zimmerman fight and the Dubois fight. She might have done even better. I don't think that the judges scoring it or the commentators calling the fight appreciated Terry Harper's boxing enough, but she looked the best I've seen her in a while. 29 years old, and one of the more experienced and accomplished women boxers anywhere at or around these weights. She's already been a 3-weight world champion, so who's to say that she can't go for 4 at either 140 or 147, where I anticipate there will be vacant titles in the not-so-distant future for Terry to fight for. Hats off to her, because she fought her ass off. She looked better than I thought she would, better than expected, enough that she's not done, not in my opinion. She can go on. She can keep fighting.
Neither guy's been under contract to us for over a year now. We withdrew any interest in them a couple of months ago. I don't think they have many options. Like Edgar particularly, I think it's a great deal for Edgar. because Edgar's, an exciting fight. I don't think he's necessarily going to win world championships, but financially, this is a good opportunity for him. I think it's going to be really interesting what happens with Richardson, because...
You don't think he had a lot of options?
Who? He didn't. No, who made him offers? Top Rank weren't interested. Golden Boy had a chat with him. We withdrew our offer like a month or so ago because of, like, when he said what he said after the Cambosos fight, in my head, I'm not working with him again. But we had some chats. We fell out with Keith Connolly, and I said, I'm just not going to work with Keith Connolly fighters. So I said, I'm sorry, I can't work with you on Richardson. So Matchroom wasn't an option. Top Rank wasn't an option. Golden Boy wasn't really an option. But the interesting thing's going to be, see, Richardson, I think, is a guy who actually wants a bit of legacy. So Golden Boy are probably fuming because he pulled out the Oscar Duarte fight. Why? Right? Now, is he going to move to 147 to fight for a Zuffa world title?
I think he kind of has to, but they don't have a 140.
They don't. But what we're hearing is no, they're going to fight Duarte at 140. But haven't they just said that they're not acknowledging world championship belts? So all of a sudden they've done all these press conferences saying Zuffa did not acknowledge world championship belts. Now they're begging the IBF to come back because they're going to have to say to the IBF, oh yeah, we're going to do Hitchins against Duarte. So I don't know, but I feel sorry for Oscar Duarte, to be honest with you, because I think he's been fucked.
I think Eddie Hearn meant Lindolfo Delgado. That's who Richardson Hitchins is said to be fighting in the not-so-distant future in defense of his IBF title as a result of an order from the IBF. As far as Oscar Duarte, Oscar's out in the cold. His fight with Richardson Hitchins is dead in the water. It's not going to happen. It's not going to get rescheduled. Eddie Hearn's saying to the media what I've been telling you here on this channel the whole time. For Edgar Berlanga and Hitchins Richins, going to Zuffa is not only the best option, in some ways it's the only option, because there is no big demand for either Edgar Berlanga fights or Hitchins Richins fights. The offers were not pouring in, and those guys weren't tripping over themselves with opportunities. Here, 4 months into the calendar year and approximately 5 cards after Zuffa's made their debut, gotten a better understanding of what their stable of fighters looks like. But what is it costing them? I mean, it seems to have costed Zuffa about $15 million to acquire Conor Benn. What did it cost them to get Richardson Hitchins or Edgar Berlanga? What are you spending on those fighters for the sake of familiarity and bringing familiar faces to your platform, near as I can tell? You have to wonder, what did the acquisition of both Edgar Berlanga and Richardson Hitchins cost Zuffa Boxing? For the sake of familiarity and bringing recognizable fighters to your platform, are you now paying those fighters in excess of their market value? Eddie Hearn stated, they just did a show last Sunday, and I didn't even know about it. They've got another show in a couple of weeks, and I don't know what they're doing. They're giving Conor Benn $15 million to fight a cracked Regis Prograis on Saturday. They don't know what they're doing. They're powerful, but they don't know what they're doing. It was announced earlier today that veteran heavyweight Otto Wallin, who gave Tyson Fury all he could handle in what was their matchup some years ago, has also migrated to Zuffa. He's another fighter that's been added to their stable. A stable that's looking more and more like I said it would upon Zuffa's launch, that Zuffa can be a safe haven, a refuge for workmen-like fighters, veteran fighters, and old war horses. Their stable will likely be comprised of B and C tier fighters, some that you're familiar with, some that you know, though you won't see any Shakur Stevensons or Devin Haney's over there. You won't see any Canelo Alvarez's or Terence Crawford's, just that grade of fighter and that ilk of fighter, and any fighter really that can actually draw. They wouldn't limit themselves to fighting on Zuffa because they don't have to. They have more earning potential than an Edgar Berlanga, a Richardson Hitchins, an Otto Wallin, an F.A. Ajagba, a Charles Martin, an Ivan Ditchko. I'm not one of these people that's rooting against Zuffa Boxing. I'm not hoping that they fail miserably. I'm just saying this idea that they're going to come into the boxing space, monopolize the sport, run the sanctioning bodies, and the other promotional outfits out of business. It was all an over-exaggerated, overestimated evaluation. Oh, what, they're going to take over boxing because they're overpaying Conor Benn and they signed Richardson Hitchins? Look out. Zuffa, more and more, is turning out to be what I thought it was. Boxing happening at a different wavelength than regular boxing, than what you get from Matchroom, Top Rank, Golden Boy, Queensberry, those veteran promoters. Zuffa isn't bad. It's not bad for the boxing fans, and it's definitely not bad for the boxers. It affords them an alternative to the existing framework, but at the very most, it's auxiliary boxing, complementary. You get the bigger cards on Saturdays, and you get the smaller ones from Zuffa on Sunday, which isn't bad. It's not a bad setup. I don't mind boxing on a Sunday. Though if Zuffa continues down this trajectory, where this is how they're operating for what remains of the calendar year, they would have hardly taken over the sport, even with all the money they have behind them. I kept telling you, it's gonna boil down to know-how. It's like Eddie Hearn said. They had a card this past Sunday that nobody was talking about and didn't move the needle. I saw more people talking about the MVP show in the UK than Zuffa's show in the US. I'm not rooting for Zuffa to fail. I never was. But the idea that because they've got a lot of money to spend, they were going to take over boxing? Oh, it's not that simple. And it was never going to be. In men's heavyweight news, Alexander Usyk predicts Anthony Joshua will be undisputed champion in 2027 now that the two-time unified heavyweight champion is training with him. Usyk came out victorious both times and currently stands as the pound-for-pound king of boxing and the Ring Magazine, IBF, WBA, and WBC heavyweight champion of the world. Joshua, meanwhile, is 5-3 ever since facing Usyk, losing twice to the Ukrainian by decision and once by stoppage against Daniel Dubois. Sandwiched in between have been wins against outmatched competition. The former two-time unified champion Joshua is looking to make one last run during a pivotal period of his life and career as the 36-year-old recovers from a fatal car crash that killed two of his friends, Latif Adeleye and Sanagami, in December. Joshua was training with Team Usyk before the incident, but the heavyweight titans have become even closer confidants in recent weeks as AJ and Usyk have been touring Ukraine together. He's not my rival, not my opponent, he's my partner, my brother, Usyk told Daily Mail. We speak every day, we are training 2 times per day. We are working on deleting mistakes. They will have to delete quite a few for Anthony Joshua to become undisputed champion in the coming calendar year. Usyk said Joshua is physically and mentally doing well and even called him the future king of the division. In 2027, Anthony will be the undisputed champion. Good idea. Usyk helped signed. AJ, you are the undisputed champion in 2027. It's possible. Anthony is a champion. Yes, I know Anthony doesn't have the belts, but for me it doesn't matter. I know Anthony will become undisputed. With their newfound bond, it's unfathomable that Usyk and Joshua will ever fight each other again. Joshua's path to becoming a world champion will be much clearer once Usyk retires. In the meantime, they're preparing for separate bouts, with Joshua eyeing a summer return and Usyk set to face Rico Verhoeven on May 23rd. Verhoeven? What kind of landscape's it gotta be for Anthony Joshua to even win a title in the heavyweight division? Usyk would have had to retire indefinitely. Because he's got 3 of them, and they're not likely to fight again. I'm not an overly optimistic person. I'm not given to blind hope, though I can see a way for Anthony to at least become a 3-time heavyweight champion, which is no small feat. Most heavyweight champions, once they lose a title, they never get it back. And Anthony already did, by beating Andy Ruiz in what was their rematch and becoming a 2-time unified heavyweight champion. He became part of a very short list of fighters who, after losing a title in the heavyweight division, they got it back. Not a lot of guys did that in the past, but Anthony's one of the ones that did. Can he do it for a 3rd time, though? Can he win a title again? I see a way that he can. After Usyk retires, and the belts are redistributed and some fighters are elevated to full champions, I could see Anthony beating a guy like Murat Gassiev, who currently holds the WBA regular title. He used to be a unified champion in the cruiserweight division, now he holds a regular title in the heavyweight division, and he's not that big for the weight, not that physically imposing in terms of size, to where if he's elevated to full champion and Anthony fights him, he can beat him. Beat him in similar fashion to how he beat Andy Ruiz in what was their rematch, getting on his toes and using his jab, boxing him up. I could definitely see Anthony Joshua beating Murat Gassiev, though he has to stay on his toes the entirety of the fight, mindful not to engage Murat in the pocket, where he is most dangerous. If Murat is close enough that he can land those hooks, land those bombs, then you're already fucking up.
You're fucking up.
You can't let the naturally smaller fighter get that close to you. Murat Gassiev being so slow on his feet. Anthony can box him up the way he boxed up Andy Ruiz in what was their rematch. That's when it comes to the WBA. When it comes to the WBO, it becomes a bit more precarious because he would have to be facing the winner of Wortley versus Dubois. Daniel Dubois that already knocked him out. If Daniel knocks out Fabio, takes the WBO, Anthony'd have to fight him again. He was so widely favored by everyone, myself included, to win that Daniel Dubois fight. I just didn't figure he was going to get knocked out like that, so winning the brown belt from the man that already beat him, that could prove difficult. If he has to go through Daniel, if he has to go through Fabio. Yeah, that's not a walk in the park either. Fabio Wortley's got that cannon right hand, that off switch to where if at any point in a fight he lets it go and it lands, you're on a deck. You're on the ground. I think that, in spite of Anthony being noticeably more experienced than Flavio, if you asked most people, do you think Fabio can knock out Anthony? I think most people would say yes. Winning the brown belt would not be easy, nor would winning the red one. Set to go down on the undercard of Usyk versus Verhoeven is the rescheduled Richard Torres versus Frankie Sanchez fight. The winner of the fight becomes the mandatory for the red belt. I think the winner's gonna be Richard Torres. But I don't actually expect Usyk to fight Richard Torres. I expect that Richie will hold that position until such a time as he is elevated to full champion, at which point Anthony would have to fight him for the red belt. And Richie's not as experienced as Anthony, but he's not as embattled either. Not as war-torn. Very fresh, very young, and very strong, fast on his feet. Winning the IBF title could prove difficult. Winning the red belt. Winning the green one ain't no easier. He'd have to go through Agit Kabayel. Currently, he's the WBC's interim champion, most in line to be elevated upon Usyk's retirement. That is a difficult and dangerous fight. The way I see it, there is a way for Anthony to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. It all depends on who he has to go through, but undisputed, I don't see it. Usyk's vote of confidence, and I don't even know how much Anthony still wants to become an undisputed champion when all the focus seems to be making it to a Tyson Fury fight. The short list of fighters that I just went through would all take a back seat to a big Tyson Fury showdown, and a victory over Fury, I think intrinsically, is worth a little bit more than becoming a 3-time heavyweight champion. I think it would matter more to more people that Anthony beats Fury than him beating Murat Gassiev. Yet another reason that another undisputed run doesn't seem likely to me. All the focus is on Fury, getting him in the ring and beating him, and we don't know that Anthony can. We don't know what he's gonna look like with Usyk in his corner. We don't know what Fury has left either. We're gonna find out this Saturday. But you have to figure that so long as Tyson Fury wins, irrespective of how he looks, the focus is on him, for Anthony to fight him, more than picking up an alphabet title. Undisputed in 2027 is not the first order of business for Anthony Joshua. I don't think. I think the first order of business is getting him a fight over the summer, maybe capping off the year with the Tyson Fury fight, or doing it early next year. Right now, that's the focus, not alphabet titles.